Oh yeah. It's fucking cool as fuck. We gotta get a picture with this. Hello.
Are y'all here for a tour?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
You would have two.
Oh, did y'all already do it?
Yes.
What's your last name?
Homan, H-O-H-M-A-N-N.
I just need to see y'all's ID. Your birthday's a month after mine. She'll give you guys a present. We've got you checked in. They will call the tour at 2 o'clock. You'll just meet up here and then head outside. If y'all need to use the restroom, there's one on the other side of the fireplace. And while you're here, everybody gets a free postcard. You just go over there and pick one out, fill it out, drop it in a little white box on the wall. We stamp them and mail them to you guys for free. And if you don't want to mail it, you can just take it with you. Thank you.
How much was it?
It is going to be $24. Thank you very much.
Fucking cool as shit.
And while he was up in Nashville, he became a very successful business merchant. He started into the spirits industry by owning a liquor store, and he earned a big reputation for choosing the finest, smoothest spirits for his label. So he started out as a broker. And he got so popular with that liquor store that he ended up establishing George Dickel and Company in 1870 and hired a bookkeeper to help him out. And he hired a guy by the name of Victor Schwab. And Victor, he's from this area, from the Tullahoma area. So he brought Victor in as a bookkeeper, but Victor ended up marrying George Dickel's wife's sister. So then he brought him into the business as a partner. But Victor, being from here, he'd heard about a distillery here in Cascade Hollow that was putting out some pretty good whiskey. So he and Mr. Dickel came here by train, and they met with the original distiller at Cascade Hollow Distillery. His name was Macklin Davis. The original site is right up on the hill there, right over top of that white car top, or truck top. And up there is the spring, where he was getting the spring water to make the whiskey. And of course, we still use that same spring today. But they met with him, tried the product, loved it. Loved it so much he bought most of what was being produced up there. They ended up coming back, and Victor Schwab bought 2/3 of the distillery from Mr. Davis. So, of course, now they're all in the whiskey making process. But Dickel, he was a really smart fellow. He came up with a unique process to where the whiskey they made in the winter was extremely smooth and mellow. And they called it Cascade whiskey, and they coined the phrase mellow as moonlight because they would charcoal mellow it by the moonlight. And that product, it was so popular here in the U.S. that Cascade Hollow Distillery was the largest distillery in the U.S. in 1904 because of the product. Unfortunately, though, just before reaching that title, Mr. Dickel passes away due to complications from a horseback riding accident. And at the time, he and his wife Augusta, excuse me, they had no heirs. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Davis, that original distiller I was telling you about, he passes away. So the distillery falls into the hands of Victor Schwab, wholesale business into the hands of Augusta Dickel. And they both continue with those two entities up till we hit about 1910. 1910, state of Tennessee enacted prohibition before the federal government and gave all the distilleries here in the state a year to shut down. So they had to shut those stills down up there. But, you know, by that time, Victor, he's a pretty savvy business guy. And Augusta was a very bold woman of the time, so he had this idea. So they go up over the border into Kentucky, and they met with a distiller up there by the name of Arthur Stitzel, putting out some pretty good bourbon. Entered into a unique contract with him to where Victor was going to come up to Kentucky, build a gigantic charcoal mellowing vat, and on the weeks that Mr. Stitzel wasn't making his bourbon, Victor and the boys would shoot up there and make that mellow as moonlight product. So, even through Tennessee's Prohibition, we still had it being made just over the border in Kentucky, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. They'll figure it out, right? So, that continued then until we hit about 1919. At that point, the federal government enacted Prohibition, shut everybody down. So, you know, at that point, we didn't have any more at least legal making whiskey for the next few decades, except for medicinal purposes, right? Of course, you know, here in the States, we've already dealt with something else on that not too long ago. History, it always comes back around, right? But as it turns out, though, Mr. Stitzel, he got chosen as one of the 6 licensors allowed to make whiskey for medicinal purposes. Well, guess which one of the ones he chooses? That mellow is moonlight, right? So even through federal prohibition, we still had it being made. You just had to get a prescription for it. Okay? Okay. So that continued. Now, unfortunately, though, during federal prohibition, Augusta and Victor pass away. So the distillery and the wholesale business all fall into the hands of Victor Schwab's kids, because Dickel's they didn't have any kids. So the Schwab kids hang on to the distillery through the lifting of federal prohibition. That was about 1933 here. But by 37, they sell to the Shinley Corporation up in Kentucky. Now, y'all, the Shinley Corporation, they change that Cascade whiskey, and they stop it from going through charcoal. And that's your big difference between your bourbons and your Tennessee whiskeys, that charcoal mellowing process. So they call it Cascade bourbon for a while. So if you see any old bottles that say that, that was Dickel in that time period until we hit about the mid-1950s. Shinley Corporation, they decided to go and bring back the old original Dickel recipes, 8 and the 12. And so they tasked their master distiller at the time, his name was Ralph Dukes, with coming down and doing that job. So Mr. Dukes, he goes up to that original site. It really wasn't big enough for the plans that they had. So they ended up purchasing 600 acres here in the holler. Had that distillery you see across the street built between 57 and 58. By 59, we had our first batch of whiskey in the barrel, so we got it back, and back to the charcoal. So it changed from that Cascade bourbon name to that George J. Dickel and Company Tennessee whiskey with that current logo, kind of paying homage to Dickel in this unique charcoal mellowing process that he came up with. So we got them back. So that 8 and the 12, and that 12 we were talking about, we're going to have both of those in the tastings, like I said, and then we'll have a few others as well. We'll have that Tabasco. So, yeah, which is a new product. We've only had it about 3 months now.
Oh, really?
Yes, very popular. So, any questions about any of the history? It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Of course, you know, a lot of guys lost their lives trying to learn how to make whiskey, still explosions and that kind of thing. Of course, you know, NASCAR got started because of the whiskey runs back in the day. So that's why NASCAR is so important to us in the South. It's part of our heritage. So yeah. We'll go up here. I'll tell you a little bit about charcoal, and then we'll kind of work our way across the street. Now, we do make our own charcoal. So we'll purchase sugar maple trees. They're sent to us in these 2x4-foot strips. They're built in what's called a rick. We'll take a bunch of the ricks into the back holler, and you'll see we've got some stacked back there, and we'll burn them. Now, we're allowed to do something here that no other distillery in our state's allowed to do. We're allowed to open burn the ricks. So, you know, the benefits for that is that all those impurities in the smoke, they dissipate out. They're not trapped in an enclosed or covered area. So that gives us a cleaner charcoal that affects the flavor. So once we get the maximum yield in that burning process that we're going to get out of the ricks, guys, soak it all down with water and let it cool. And then once it's cool, they'll spread it all out on the floor of that big old pavilion to dry. And then, you know, once it's dry, we've got to get it across the street to the charcoal mellowing vat. So we have a saying here, we still make it handmade the hard way. So part of that hard way is we'll send 3 guys with 3 shovels, a bunch of burlap bags in a pickup truck over here, and believe it or not, they're going to hand bag all that charcoal up, throw it in the back of the pickup truck, and they'll make runs back and forth across the street. And we'll fill those vats up 13 feet high, and that's the highest in the state. And we'll do it about every 2.5 to 3 months, you know, whenever that distiller decides it's time to change that charcoal out. So those 3 short straws, you have to fill them across the street and change all that charcoal out. So any questions about that? All right, we're gonna head across the street. I'm just gonna let you know there's no photography when we get inside the distillery, but
Right.
anywhere outside you can do that.
Okay.
And I'll let you get some shots from outside the warehouse in. Just remind me.
Okay. All right.
All right, we'll head on across. What brings you on?
That's some nice grass right there. That grass is nice. Green.
That rolled out.
Is that, oh, is it?
Yeah, ages.
Oh, shit.
We were about 9 years ago. We were here. We visited the Jack Daniels. And I came back from the Netherlands, and my liquor store said,
Yeah, we've kind of been the South secret here for a long time, but they're starting to find out about us.
"Yeah, that's a good thing."
Well, we'll do a little bit of walking and talking. So the unique thing about Tennessee and Kentucky is that both of those states, they sit on what's called a limestone dome. Now, the limestone dome, it naturally takes out all the iron and the sulfur from the water. And that's real important because we get into that distilling process, you can't take out the iron. So that's why you see so many distilleries here in Tennessee and Kentucky. It's because the water. It's perfect for making whiskey, and it's the most important ingredient. And this particular strain, it's also a little bit higher in calcium. So we get into that fermenting process, it'll give us a little bit of a jump start. And you know, it's a little higher in calcium, so it's got to be healthy for us, right? So you know where I'm going with this, right? We'll take any excuse. It doesn't take much around here. But you'll see we got great flow on it. Yep. But we'll get the water from an aquifer underneath of that spring up there, and it'll just flow down through a pipe right on into the distillery.
So you can make whiskey all year long.
We can make it all year round.
Okay.
Yep. We're going, we have two shifts here. We've got about 50, 52 people that work over here. They'll do everything from making it, making the whiskey, to outside maintenance, inside maintenance. They'll take care of all of our bonded warehouses. So that's a lot, just that little bit, but it's been a great crew here. We've had some here for over 40 years. We're very proud of that. But this is the only site. This is where all of our corn pots are being made. And they pretty much, we're cooking at least 6 days a week throughout the whole year, except for some Sundays we will cook a little whiskey here, believe it or not. That's a big deal down here in the South.
Yeah.
Cooking on Sundays.
Yep.
You would know.
Yep.
So, yeah. Yeah, we will shut down a couple of times a year for a couple of weeks.
Maintenance.
Yeah, for maintenance, sanitizing, all the vats will go through a light acid wash. So we'll do that in the summertime, like late July, early August, and then over Christmas, the New Year's break. So those are every 6 months. But that's it. Otherwise, we're running pretty much. I think the last shift will leave around 6:37, and then the next group will come in about 5:30 or 6, get the boilers up and going, and it'll continue. We'll start up again. Now, we were putting out about 400 barrels a week. We added a second shift a couple of years ago. That put us at 700 barrels, and then with cooking on every now and then on Sundays, that'll put us at 900 barrels every so often. But you compare that to, say, Jack down the road,
Yeah.
they're putting out, what, 2,000 a day now. I've kind of almost lost track. But they're producing Tennessee whiskey for the world, and we just can't do this. This is all handmade here. So, and this is the only site. So, you know, we put out what we can, and then hopefully people can find us. A little harder outside the U.S. to really find us at all.
Yeah, my liquor store
Your
has.
liquor store's getting it. That's great.
Yeah.
So probably the 8 or the 12.
But there are liquor stores that don't sell Jack Daniels or Jim Beam.
Oh, okay.
Only the real whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Special ones.
Special things.
Yeah.
Also expensive things.
Yeah, because they'll run you about, what, 3 or 4 times the price there.
I don't know what's the bottle over here.
An average bottle will cost you between 35 and 40.
Yeah, I think it's no, not
No?
double. No, I think like $50.
Okay, that's
But
not
50
bad.
bucks?
Or
Because the
50
tax-
euros.
50 euros.
Yeah,
so
so I
that's,
don't know how that works.
That's
with
about
Uh,
$60.
yeah,
Okay.
but
So, okay,
not always.
not
huh?
too bad. That's not as
No.
bad as what I've heard. That's not 3 to 4 times the price, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. All right. Well, y'all, we ready to head in? It's getting a little hot out here.
Yeah.
But we are the second registered dispensary. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's going to smell good in here. So I can't have you getting excited doing swan dives off my rails. All right? No straws coming out, okay? All right. was done yesterday. So you could put it all on the website.
How many gallons?
Over 20,000 miles. And believe it or not, only 20% of it is alcohol. They will fresh grind the grains every day per batch, like grinding your coffee. So they fresh ground, set up and into the fancy scale. They're going to weigh all of that grain and send it right down in there. Now we have a grain bill here at Dickel, and we'll tell you that. So all of George Dickel is going to be 84% corn, 8% rye, 8% barley. So the corn we get locally about 20 minutes away in Decker, Tennessee. The rye and barley malt, though, that comes from up in the north, like the Dakotas, southern Canada, wherever we're getting that flavor and quality from the corn. And they take a lot of rye up in the north, in Canada, and some New York areas. Now, if you come over here, you'll notice we got the beer well. You'll see it spinning around down there. It's got like a little rope propeller in the bottom to keep this stirred up. Because we want to go into the stills nice and consistent. That smells pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah. So y'all, this is Mary. We call it Peanut. And you'll get it all stirred up so you can smell it. It smells really good. So we'll see it come down the tail boxes back here. Distilling process, we got those leftover grain particles at the bottom, that big old column once the alcohols come off, right? So that's the spent beer. So what we don't send down is the starter for the next batch, there's a little bit of warning. And we shoot it up there to the silos up on the hill. And we got local farmers and co-ops that come in and pick that up for seed for their cow and pigs. So it works out really good. Cow and pigs are enjoying a little that George Dickel byproduct, right? And of course, we get a little pre-marinated, go down and but they're in every 15 to 20 minutes. And you'll see we got somebody picking it up right here. Yeah. So yeah, I've seen them 3-4 trucks deep. But they get it really for free. Because it's just part of helping out the community. But I hear the cows come running in.
Whoa, smells good.
Different here. Yeah. So this is one of our 13 bonded warehouses. So I've got this one, I've got 12, well actually 14 bonded warehouses. We finished building a 14th and now we've started building a 15th because we've souped up production a bit. But this is just a small, warehouse. This is just a batch of our whiskey, about 200 barrels. But you'll notice in here we'll go 5 barrels high. The warehouses up on the other side of the hill, they'll go up 6 barrels high and anywhere from 25 to 35 barrels deep. So they are much bigger. And we will average well over 250 to 300,000 barrels on hand here at any given time.
How many bottles common from a barrel?
That's kind of hard for me to answer because George Dickel is in the barrel. We'll go up to 14 years in the barrel.
Really?
Yeah, we're the longest Tennessee whiskey aged. So our least amount of time, the number 8 with the black label on it, that's in the barrel 5 to 7 years. About 90% of the Tennessee whiskey in the market is just in that barrel 4 years.
Yeah.
So you see the difference between just our first one. We've almost doubled sometimes what everybody else does. So there's loss over time in the barrel. Yes, that angel share. Because here's what we'll do. So this is a spent barrel. This is a 53-gallon barrel. Come around. Now, when we fill it up, we'll fill it up 52 gallons with whiskey because we've got to allow for expansion because these warehouses aren't climate controlled. Because we want the whiskey expanding and contracting and moving in and out of the wood because that's where it gets all of its color and flavor finishes. And you'll notice we've got these lines going down the side. So those are soak lines. So when we put the whiskey into the barrel the first year, we'll lose 5% of it into the wood. All right? And then every year after that, we'll lose about 2 to 3% in evaporation. Or what in the industry is called that angel share. And you're smelling some of that right now. But you know, we got to cut those angels off at a certain point to bring you too much whiskey, all right? Because on average, we'll say what I'm going to give you in the tasting today, our product lineup, we will have lost 30 to 40% out of the barrel. So we're looking at about this much left by the time we set it to bottle. We've had the oldest Tennessee whiskey in history here, a 17-year-old, happened by accident. Because the guys we had 84 barrels in our single barrel program here in the warehouse. They were 14 years old. The sweethearts in the warehouse, they took those 84 barrels and they moved them up to one of the warehouses up on the hill, filled it in with this batch you see here. But the distiller coming on didn't know that and found those barrels 3 years later looking for a 9-year-old single barrel for a customer. About had a heart attack because they're all hand stamped with the date, right? Thought that it was past our product lineup, thought that it was going to taste too oaky. All right, they tapped a few of the barrels, it tasted great. Then the problem is, when they opened the barrels, guess how much whiskey was left?
Yeah. 30%?
Any idea? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So very little, about 6 to 8 inches, 8 if we were lucky, inches in there.
What did you do? Make it cost
Well,
strength
that was the
limitation?
big deal, is what are we going to do with it? Because we only had 84 barrels.
Yeah.
And they hemmed and hawed, and finally the distiller at the time said, look, we got to bottle it, because even if we tried to do it again, who's to say it would work? If we'd have had higher temperatures, we could have opened those barrels and not been anything in them. But the angels sang, and everything worked out, and we had a little whiskey, and so we hand bottled it. And on the other side of the wall, y'all got a hand bottling facility. So we ended up hand bottling 850 cases of 12 in a case. But once it's gone, it's gone. But that was a 87 proof product. But it's gone. We've sold it all. So, yeah. But it was fun while we had it.
Yeah.
Now, if you come over here, you'll see we've got leakage, right? Throughout all of this. Now, if you feel this, you'll feel it's a little sticky. So after a certain amount of time, the whiskey and that char in the barrel, they start to caramelize together. Any slow leaks, it'll seal it up. But that's where the whiskey takes on its sweetness, is at that point, is that caramelization point. And because we don't add flavors and colors, you're going to taste right in the product lineup that I'm going to give you today where that happens, because all of a sudden it gets a little sweeter. You're picking up those caramels and vanillas. So it's pretty neat.
Is it true that a bottle at the top has a different tasting than one at the bottom?
It would if you multi-story warehouses, because there are distilleries that will go up 9, 12, or higher stories. And the higher you get up, like in your house, the hotter it gets, right? And the deal is a lot of these distilleries will start rotating barrels from the top to the bottom. Because as the whiskey gets hotter, it ages it quicker. It's moving in and out of this charred barrel. And it can become a bit bitter or charcoaly tasting, right? We don't want that. So that's why we just single-story warehouse, because we're trying to keep control of that consistency. And for us, it's important because we're in the barrel, we'll go up to 14 years. So we want that last bottle, let's see, that 12 you had, that's in the barrel 7 to 9 years. Well, we want that last bottle of 12 you had to taste like the next one.
Yeah, sure.
So when I say it's in the barrel 7 to 9 years, I couldn't give you a specific year, right? Because it's all dependent on the temperatures that we've had in the weather, the years that this whiskey is in the barrel as to when it hits that flavor and finish. And typically it's right in that 7 to 9 year range. But once it hits it, you send it to bottle. Yep.
Do we make a picture in here?
We can, from outside in. Yeah. We ready to do that? We ready to go try our whiskey here? We'll take a few pictures and then we'll head across. So, what we can do is I'd be happy to take a picture of it all. If you want to do it behind the barrel there,
great.
we all get in there and I'll take the picture from outside in. Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Great. Do I push it down part way to focus? Okay. So I'm going to do a couple. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Whiskey. All right. 1, 2, 3. Whiskey. Okay, see if I got it. Y'all interested in the picture? Hey, I like those. They take a picture. I've got a nice candy one. Oh, yeah. All right, 1, 2, 3. Whiskey. 1, 2, 3. Whiskey. All right. We got you. This could be a Christmas card. I at least get the guys smiling in most of these. Right?
I can take one like this?
Yeah, y'all take as many as you want.
Yeah. All climate is changing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Never used one of that. Now you don't sell to independent.
The tadpoles. See the tadpoles?
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
They're only the little ones.
Yeah. They always drink straight. No ice.
Down here in the South, or not, well, here in the States, it's a little different. Lots of them mix their and then something else, just like that. That's great here. It's already here. Smelling my whiskey. Well, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I'm Deanna. So, if y'all just want to grab a seat behind the samples, we're just going to kind of go through this together. And what is your name?
Great.
Grant?
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome, Grant. You just made it in for the best part at the end. Taste it.
Fine with me.
Where are you from?
Actually, I come out of near Pikeville,
Yes.
Crossville, so I
Okay.
got a bit of a drive home. So I was wanting to come for a tasting, but if
Yeah.
you don't have a quick tour, I'll be glad.
Oh, okay. I don't know if they're going to be doing any of that or not. Did they tell you that they're doing a tour?
This 6 about a tour at 3 o'clock.
Yes, so maybe they'll send you out on that and then.
Good.
Okay,
Okay.
so yeah, and then you can just, after a tour, you just head on out instead of having to wait around for the tasting. If
Okay.
you'd like. So y'all have a seat. And we've got all kinds of things here, glasses in front of you. So these 5 samples match the 5 bottles here on the bar mat. And then I've got a big old glass of water there for you, and what's called a tasting sheet in front of you. And so y'all are welcome to fill that out and take it with you when you go. If you'd like, that kind of help remind you what you had today. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the #1 white corn whiskey, and we're going to kind of work our way down to what I like to call our sit on the front porch sipping whiskey. All right? And then I've got that new product. All right? So #1 white corn whiskey. That's the one all the way to the left. So what I want you to do is I want you to kind of pick up that glass, and I want you to kind of twirl that whiskey around in the glass. All right, now I want you to open your mouth, and I want you to breathe through your nose and your mouth. And what are you smelling there? Yes, you're smelling corn, so some grains. It might smell like another clear spirit you've had before. Yeah, definitely moonshine, but something else. I don't know if I have anybody here that drinks this. How about tequila?
I drink Desperados.
Oh, yeah.
Tequila. A little like tequila, yes. Now, this, though, is much higher quality than what we get up in the mountains around here, right? Because I call this akin to a moonshine, because typically what we get up in the mountains around here, it's been through one distilling process. So it'll go into that milk carton or mason jar. You kind of heard of it when you drink it, right? Unless you got somebody that really knows what they're doing. You know, then you're crawling around on the floor trying to figure out how you got there, right? So we'll wear it up. But this is much higher quality. This has been through double distilling in 13 feet of charcoal. So it's probably some of the highest quality white corn whiskey you'll ever have. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't usually do a lot of sipping on this. I just kind of toss it back. All right. But I tell you, I have more women on my tours that choose this as one of their favorites. But it is your highest proof. So enjoy this. Cheers. Oh, yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah.
You can
So,
sip just a bit.
it's very good though.
Yeah.
But you feel it, it's pretty smooth.
It's not sharp. I
Yes.
thought it would be sharp, but
Yeah. That's the difference between a homemade product and a handmade product. But you'll feel heat here, right? And we call that a whiskey sweat. But it goes away quick. It's got that nice corn finish to it, right? So this, I will sell this by the cases to locals. They'll drink it pretty much like we just did. But this will make the best Bloody Mary or margarita you'll ever have. Because the corn and the tomato taste great. So, you know, once you've had a Dickel Bloody Mary, there's no going back. That's that good. Okay, but this is kind of harder to find outside the state of Tennessee, this #1 white corn whiskey, because most people don't know what to do with it. All right, locals will put fruit in it, peaches, blackberries, raspberries, all kinds of good stuff. But that is Dickel unaged, so it never sees the barrel, right? But these other samples you got in front of you all have that beautiful whiskey color, and of course, you know all the color comes from the barrel, as well as the different flavor and finishes. So the longer it's in the barrel, darker it gets, the more flavors and finishes it kicks
yeah,
up.
with real risk.
Yes, yes. Now, I was telling you about the two original Dickel recipes, which those are the 8 and the 12. All right. So the 8 and the 12. The 8, the locals call this our black label. So this is in the barrel 5 to 7 years. This is going to be an 80 proof. So we're dropping from the 91 proof, which is what, 45.5% alcohol, versus down to a 40% alcohol, or 80 proof. So this one, you can really taste that George Dickel flavor that we get from that secret strain of George Dickel. Right? So when you smell that, you'll get twirled around, open your mouth. Now you'll smell kind of a whiskey smell. All right?
This is 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years. Yep.
Much smoother already.
Yes. So you're starting to smell a little bit of the barrel of wood. Might smell a little smoky. Okay. But you might pick up a little sweetness on the back end. All right. So this one, you know, you'll want to do this in a couple of sips. So I'll usually coat the palate with the first sip and hit it with the second sip. So cheap.
Good old number 8.
Yeah, that good old number 8. That is a big local favorite.
I love
That number 8. Yes. you see how smooth it is. It's nice flavor too. But they all taste different. And so pay close attention to the flavor on that one, because this next one will taste completely different. So the 12, Dickel called this his superior because it was in the barrel longer. So now we're looking at a 7 to 9-year-old, and it is a 90 proof. So we're kicking the heat up a little bit. We're not adding as much spring water in the end. Okay. So this one has won Tennessee Best Whiskey. It's been in Men's Health Journal as being one of the top 50 whiskeys of the world, and that included bourbon and scotch. And it's won the double gold in San Francisco. So this is a multiple award-winning whiskey, right? And this is the one I think you said you had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, when you smell it, it's going to smell different, a little different. So you get a good smell on that 12. You go, it's sweeter, very good. So yes. So this is where that char and the whiskey caramelize, and that's why it's getting sweeter. So you're really going to taste the sweetness in this one. So this one is one of my favorites. So enjoy this. So that is Dickel number 12. But you see, even though it's a 90 proof, it's still real smooth. But you see how different that tastes. So if anybody tells you on any of these whiskey tours that that 7 years, over 7 years in the barrel does not make a difference in the flavor of the whiskey, I just proved them wrong right here with this one. It tastes completely different. Okay?
You get this one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. All right, now I'm going to really spoil on you. All right, if I haven't already. So this next one, this Barrel Select, y'all. This is considered Dickel's small batch. So when we send batches to bottling, basically we're going to send all of those 200 barrels you saw in the warehouse. That's a batch for our whiskey. But when we get to this point, the 12, then we're going to start pulling some barrels out and putting them into our small batch and single barrel programs, which is what this is. So this Barrel Select is going to be 10 barrels that are 10 to 12 years in age that we're going to mingle together. We're going to cut it to an 86 proof. So the proofing is right in between these two, so I think it's perfect and we create this. This is the highest quality Tennessee whiskey for the money. This is a 10 to 12-year-old for just under 50 with taxes. Nobody beats us in price of quality.
Is it a NOS?
Huh?
No age stated?
This one on our website, it will state 10 to 12 years in the
Oh,
barrel.
okay.
And I don't know if it's on there or not. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't tell.
You see that more and more. No
Yeah, I'm
age
having more.
requirements.
I can't get it out far enough now.
Oh, I mean,
I
with other whiskeys also.
yeah. But this one, it'll state that on our website. But this one is only 2% of the production here at Dickel. And so we sell over half of that 2% production on the other side of the wall in our bottle shop. That means less than half of it goes out for the rest of the country. And half of that stays here in the state of Tennessee for the rest of Tennessee. So less than a quarter of this even leaves the state. So this can be a little harder to find, okay? Have you seen this at all?
No.
Yes. So this one, this is fantastic. This is my favorite. So I even have people that aren't whiskey drinkers that they'll have this and be like, I didn't know whiskey could taste like this. I can drink this. All right? So this is so smooth, this will get you into trouble. So you got to be careful. This doesn't sit on the front porch sipping whiskey. So you got to be careful sitting in that rocking chair on the front porch. When you get out of the chair, you don't fall off the porch. All right? This is fantastic. So enjoy that. But it's got an incredible finish to it. All of Dickel starts great and ends well. But the finish on this Barrel Select is so good. It's a little bit sweet, but not too sweet. It's almost fruity.
Less sweet than this one.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not
This
strong.
is your sweetest. You're right.
Yeah.
That's the sweetest.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That one to me is more smoother than that one.
Yes, it is. And you're right. That's smoother.
It would get you in trouble.
It will get you, it will get you in trouble. I'm telling you. I've been in trouble with it. So, yeah. Yeah.
What proof is that?
This is an 86 proof.
That's good.
So it's right in between these. All right. Now, I've got something a little special for you. So, for lack of a better word, there are a lot of kind of foo-foo drinks out there, kind of like flavored whiskeys, like honey, apples, and maple.
Crown Royal.
Yes.
Vanilla.
Yes. Vanilla.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're adding flavors to these whiskeys, right? And the guys across the street, they're all masters of whiskey. They make whiskey flavored whiskey here. You don't do that poo-poo stuff. So they've been kind of frustrated about these products, but they're so popular. You know, some of them are popular. That honey is pretty popular. So they're like, all right, how can we tap into that but still make a handmade product? So they had this idea. So they went down to Louisiana to Tabasco, and they said, what if we were to take our product and age it in Tabasco barrels? So they went down there, and the guys at Tabasco said, we love Dickel. We would love to team up with you on that. So they sent their Tabasco barrels, when they were finished with them, up here to us. All right, so with gas masks on, because those barrels make you cry, right?
Yeah.
The guys took our Dickel number 8, and they aged it for 30 days in Tabasco barrels. Hence, hot Dickel.
I've seen this
Have
actually
you
that
seen
last month in the
Yes,
liquor stores.
it's
Yeah.
been out now for about 3 months total, but the last place they put it out here was in Tennessee, believe it or not. I don't know why they did that, but anyway. So, in the process of making this, they said it needs a little something more, so they added a little cane sugar to it. So I want you to smell, that's your 5th sample. So smell that. So what are we smelling?
You smell pepper.
Yeah,
Tabasco.
smell that Tabasco.
Yeah, the
Right.
sour, yeah.
All right, now I don't want you to be afraid of this. So, if I was,
I was afraid to buy it.
I know, but it's only a 70 proof, so this is the lowest proof we've had. All right, so it's going to surprise you. So I want you to get a really good sip on this. All right, so cheers. Now you're going to taste sweetness on the front end, then the heat builds. Now swallow. Swallow again. Now lick your lips. Get a little bit of sugar off your lips. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
It's exactly right. It's not too hot, not.
Yes, but that sweetness kind of surprises you.
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah. I was just
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that, huh?
No.
So yeah,
We're selling, let's go.
we're
Yeah.
selling all kinds of. I mean, it's going like crazy.
Yeah.
It's just selling.
You know,
off the shelf.
it's on export.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a great question.
Yeah.
But you can find it pretty much anywhere here in the U.S.
Yeah. I
He
think
wants to
so.
bring it
I
back.
know. See, that's where I get into trouble.
Yeah.
Is trying to get you to get it back, you know, have it back home as an option. But that is, and the more, you know, at first I was like, I think it's kind of good. And then the more I've had it, I'm more like, I kind of like that. But it's not something I would just sit and drink a glass of.
No.
So this is great if for those that live up in the north that have to shovel snow. You know, you shovel the snow, you come in, you have a shot or two of that, you're warming back up, you're good to go, you know? So,
That's
yeah.
great.
All right. So any questions about anything that we've been through so far? All right, y'all. Well, this is my opportunity. Thank you for coming on our tour. I hope you enjoyed it.
Well,
I hope
thank
you
you
think I did a
very
good
much.
job. And of course, you know, here at Dickel, we ask when you drink, please drink responsible. And of course, you know, I ask when you drink, please drink Dickel.
I have one question.
Sure.
When we went to Jack Daniels 9 years ago, you couldn't taste anything because of
Yes.
the law.
Yes.
You
Did it
can't have
change?
those.
Yes.
You can't.
They've got a
Exchange.
permit
Yes.
now that
Okay.
will allow, they have a special permit that allowed them to serve the whiskey there now and
It's
sell it.
like this. It's just
Yeah.
Oh,
really
you could,
small.
and over here you could always taste it.
Yes,
Okay.
because here's
Yeah,
the deal, we're
it's plastic
in
cups.
a dry county, but we are within Tullahoma city limits, and it's a wet city. So I call this dam. But we've always been allowed to do that here. Yeah, when I went on that Jack tour way back, I think it was almost 20 years ago, they'd only give you lemonade at the end of the tour.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Did they give you all
Or
lemonade?
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Shake
they
hand.
did.
Yeah, we shook hands and then
Oh,
some
oh, no lemonade or nothing?
No, I don't think so.
It's a hot.
The only thing I could buy were the limited editions in the box.
Yes.
But you couldn't
Way too
taste
expensive,
it.
I have to be honest.
Yes,
because
they are very pricey.
they're for sale all over the world.
Yeah, the, some of those, they're selling, they used to get away with that by selling a commemorative bottle.
Yeah.
They were selling you the bottle, but of course they had the fluid in there, but, yeah, but now, I think they still can sell those commemorative bottles. I don't know that they can sell you their regular whiskey. I don't think they do.
They have like smaller bottles you can buy, and then they also have bigger bottles.
Bigger bottles. So, yeah. So, kind of interesting how it all works around here. Laws have loosened up a little bit, so.
Yeah, when I first moved here 15 years ago, you couldn't buy liquor at any of the counties in near me. And then finally got liquor stores and wine and
Yes, we just
grocery
got wine in grocery stores, what,
Just recently last year.
5 months ago?
I still live in a dry
stores
county.
this year.
You still what?
Live in a dry county.
See?
Yeah. And we still had bootleggers here. You know,
Oh, we
10
still
years
have
ago.
bootleggers.
Yeah.
We had a guy just down the road here, got arrested last year for selling whiskey.
Bootlegging.
Bootlegging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't care at all. We feel though.
Yeah.
Too many mountains to
Too
climb
hard
up
to
to.
find it all.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, thank you for
Well,
coming in.
thank
Of
you
course,
very much.
they may put you on, if you go out there now, if there's a 3 o'clock tour going out, they'll put you on it.
Oh, that's okay. I honestly just want to come for a
You
tasting.
tried it? Okay.
So thank you.
That's here. It was wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. All right. We'll slide that door across. And we'll head out there. If you want to purchase beer, you can do that in the bottle shop, and then souvenirs at the registry to sign up for the tour.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
Are they sold separately, so if you want to haul out by bottle?
Air conditioner.
Can you get that for you, Ben?
I got it.
Let's look in the bottle shop. Huh? What?
Pretty good.
I might have to get one.
So, yeah, it is. Now, it'll cost you, I'll tell you, it'll cost you $5 or
Where are you flying down to?
Chicago.
Yeah, so we're heading back.
I really love the tasting, so thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
Hey, Deanna.
Thank you.
Hey, Deanna. Years ago, I work at a liquor store,
Oh, okay.
and there used to be a Dickel red label. What happened to that?
What is your name?
Huh?
What is your name?
Chris.
Chris. So that's my little son's name. I get asked about that every now and then. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, Dickel was sold to Diageo.
Yeah.
Now, Diageo wasn't after Dickel. They were wanting a bottling facility up in Plainfield, which is where we do a lot of our bottling.
Yeah.
So they got us and another entity with that bottling. They did not know what they had. And so they slowed production down. Slowed it down so much it caused a big panic down here in the South, and people were buying Dickel like crazy because
Yeah.
they thought up's coming to an end. And Diageo finally realized what was going on. It created such a problem. So they put out this red label. It was just a 2-year-old. And they put it out for a little while until they had enough aged in the barrel that they could put out the 8 and the 12 again. Once they had enough, they did away with that red label and had the regular ones. Well, some people really like that red label. And so then we have people asking about that. I'm like, well, that's gone. But that was a pretty good product. I've had some of that.
Yep. I still have
Do you still-
I have a half-gallon seal at home. I
Okay.
bought it back when.
That is, do not, Chris, hang on to that.
Hang on to it.
Because that is going to be it's a collector item.
Yeah.
And because it's not made anymore. And people really liked it. So, unless you really want to open it, I would hang on to it and see
Hang on
what
to it.
doesn't happen with
Yeah.
that at some point. I have a bottle as well, and I'm keeping it
Keep it.
sealed.
Okay. Yep.
So it's funny you asked for it. But yep,
Yeah,
that's
about
the story on
2012 I bought it.
that. Okay. And if you see any more anywhere, I would get it.
Get it? Yep.
Yep.
Thanks, Deanna.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'm not if you can't see.
Anything?
What'd you get, Ben?
Shirt?
How much was it?
I don't know, but that was real. $20.
I'll give you a I was gonna buy it for you. Oh. Quit it.
You looking?
Huh?
You looking?
It's the lows down here at the
Push part.
postcards. What was this? Oh, they signed the Netherlands. Holy shit. Nope. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, they kept sending the Netherlands.
That's awesome.
They probably wrote their name. It's like a G. Keep it home. George Dickel says best done in Tennessee.
That's awesome. She said we can have one of these?
Yeah. And so we can fill it out and they mail it. I'm keeping mine.
I mean, I don't know. I even know I don't get it. It's like real or paper. All he knows is
That's cool as shit.
Are they expensive in there?
Where? The bottle shop? Yeah. I'm good, yeah.
Is that why you said no?
Home's way cheaper. Which one did you get, thing?
Best damn whiskey.
Oh, where's that one at? Oh,
That one.
you got a couple of them.
You got one of them cups. Is that like yours? Stick in my bag. Let's go.
One thing I'll say about the castor hollow bread. We're never
Say, man.
done with that. Then we're making it the way.
They're very nice.
Yeah. This one was, I think, better, honestly.
Yeah.
More personal. Group of 4 versus how many do we have on the other one? A busload?
Yeah. You didn't have to fight everybody.
In 2 miles, turn right on Riley Creek Road.
Oh my god, look at that son of a bitch.
What?
Big old bee trying to get in.
Is it in the hut or?
No, it's in the outside. So you say you like this one better? That Tabasco isn't too bad.
No, but it ain't something I can just drink.
Yeah, that's true.
That's something to be good mixed with, but just to take a swig of.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool to live right there. Go down there every day.
Work down there, and all you had to do was walk to work.
Shit, yeah.